This week we're reading The Familiar by Leigh Bardugo, otherwise known as
I don't want to be smart today. Give me my romance.
Honestly.
Hi, readers. I'm Jordan.
And I'm Katie.
And welcome to Not Another Heroine Season 2, the podcast where we break down the best and worst fictional heroines of any genre. Because that's what we do now.
Want to see what's next on our TBR list? Subscribe to us on YouTube or follow us on Instagram for a sneak peek at upcoming content or to help us pick our next book. I'm reading through the script and literally the first line written is Lucia's cunty aunt.
Because she truly achieves cunty proportions in this part of the book.
She do.
Welcome to
like things are going too well. Let's run away. Lucia's like, wait, what?
Familiar Part 3. It all goes to hell in a handbasket, and
honestly, yeah, because I was a little bit caught off guard how fast things go not good.
we gotta go from that Lucia's treading water and surviving to she gonna die.
Yeah, immediately. And it's interesting too because it's been a while since I've read Shadow and Bone, but I feel like there was a little bit of that moment there too, but it was not as abrupt as it was in this one. Like, because you kind of get that, like, oh no, things are going really bad for our heroine. But in this one, like, the events are happening so fast, you have whiplash, and then you're like, oh my God, and then it's over.
So, kind of to recap, the beauty fled, and everyone was like, well, we all knew she was just there for the looks. Like, we're not going to go after her. And then the Holy Child was taken away by the Inquisition along with her family. And so that just leaves the Prince of Olives and Lucia to compete in the third event. And the Prince of Olives goes to her and says, hey, I think we should form an alliance because I don't trust your man, St. Angel. We need to do something special to kind of survive third competition. So Lucia's like, maybe we'll make this work. And the competition starts. And if you were looking for some religious symbolism, here you go.
Yeah. Basically, they're all brought out to the middle of nowhere. It's kind of like a forest, basically, but there's a giant lake in the middle. And everyone expected the king to be there to see this last, event of the competition because whoever wins is going to be his miracle worker. But you kind of get this like inkling feeling on the back of your neck when he's not there. And you're like, okay, so like something is happening because everyone seems a little bit agitated, a little bit upset that he's not there. But the competition still has to, continue. The boy toy is there with his wife. Everybody's watching. And basically, it happened so fast that I'm like still not really clear of like who does what, but there's a giant cross.
Yeah, they kind of disassemble a pier. So they're in the middle, they walk out onto a pier in the middle of a lake, I think, or something like that. And they use the Prince of Olives and Luca use the wood from the pier to make themselves a little platform in the middle of the lake, and then they assemble a cross out of the pier decks. And it's massive. And yay, God, it's here. Great. Here's our holy symbolism. And then the Prince of Olives kind of flips the script on Lucia and like makes a fucking pirate ship or like a British. He uses wood to make a pirate ship or some sort of ship, and it's supposed to be like demonstrative of Britain's navy because they make the ship, they set it on fire or something. I don't know. It's kind of a blur.
Fire's involved somewhere.
Yeah, and at this moment, like, Lucia's betrayed by the Prince of Wales because he, like, hijacked the whole show, and he's like, "Ha ha, fuck you, I win," and Lucia's like, "Not on my watch, asshole." So she realizes that he is not real magic, so Lucia's magic does actual physical things in the real world, which is why it has such dramatic impacts when it goes wrong, and the Prince of Olives' magic is all illusion, so he can make pretty pictures, but it all is just shadow. And so she summons some birds, I think, or something like that.
Bugs maybe, or like turns jewels into flesh-eating monster things that crawl
Yeah!
all over his body and then just, like,
Okay,
leaves him out there.
that's a theme in the beginning of the book is that she cannot do, like, self-serving stuff with her magic, like, she can't multiply money or jewels or anything like that. So, she realizes this, and then, yeah, she basically turns his jewels into bugs, deliberately, like, using her magic wrong, and he gets distracted, and his illusion of the ship falls apart, right?
Yeah. Basically, everything is fucking chaos at this point.
Mhm.
Because then also, like, she leaves him out there to basically drown as he's being eaten by bugs. But the Inquisitors show up and basically kind of crash the party.
Mhm.
And they're like, we have flirted the line a little bit too much between God's miracle work and magic, and y'all are all going to jail, is basically the summation. And so they kind of are chasing people into the woods, and you kind of realize that the king is not so happy with his secretary who was throwing this competition to get back in his good graces, and he's like, "No, what? Not we're cutting cords. I don't like you."
Capture
But
everyone.
somehow yeah, but somehow that guy escapes, and then we get this, psychotic chase through the woods scene where Lucia realizes, like, "I need to get out of here, like, I am going to be sent to this, like, prison island they have for the Inquisition," and everybody's running into the woods. Donna Valentina, the angry
The
bitch
what?
from the
Yeah.
beginning. She basically runs into the woods too with her husband, and we get this kind of, like, almost redemption scene where her husband has a horse, and so he picks up his wife, they're galloping off away, and then they run into Lucia and Saint Angel, and
St.
Donna Valentina.
Angel, he had, like, his own mini redemption scene because he galloped out of nowhere and, like, pulled Lucia up onto his horse and was running away with her.
Yeah, and, because if he leaves the guy's side for a night, he'll, like, disappear into dust or something, right?
Mhm.
And so he was basically saying, like, "I'm willing to die for you." But it there's just so much chaos that it's kind of, like, lost a little bit, like, the
Mhm.
importance of that scene.
And as Lucia has a horse in front of him, they start taking, like, arrows or, like,
Yeah.
fire from guards and stuff, and St. Angel is shot, basically.
Yeah, and he tells Lucia to keep going, and she's, like, running on foot, I think, and I think that's when they meet up with Donna Valentina, and she's like, "You need to give Lucia your horse, like, we'll be fine, but she for sure won't be," and I think the husband is kind of like,
She's not gonna get away, like, she doesn't have a chance no matter what we do, so I'm not giving up my horse. It turns out that he didn't get to get away either, and everyone's captured. Lucia's captured, Valentina and her husband are captured, and then we have this random perspective switch to Lucia's aunt.
"Yeah, this
This scene
seems
will fuck you up.
depresso." Yeah, this is sad because basically the aunt is being, like, escorted by her boy toys guards, and she realizes, very quickly because she's not a stupid woman, that it's, like, the middle of the night and they're on top of a bridge, and they're stopping for some reason, and she's like, "Oh, no,"
I'm
because she was
gonna
trying to
die.
yeah,
Yeah.
because I think she was trying to escape, right? And then she
Yeah,
got
she had
caught or
sewn a
something.
bunch of her jewels, like, she took all her wealth and threw it in the carriage, and she thought she was getting escorted to a ship to leave the country, and so she, like, basically put all her heavy jewels in her dress, and when you stop on a bridge over water wearing a bejeweled gown.
She gets yeeted over.
Yep, but for a one final win, because she gets out of the carriage, the guard's like, "You know what's gonna happen," and she's, "Well, yes." I do, but she grabs one of the guards and she's like, "If I'm dying, you're dying with me, bro." And so she, like, hurls herself over the bridge or something, and she takes one of
Yeah.
the guards with her, and they all drown. His neck snaps, and she is weighted down by her dress to sink to the bottom of the river. And then it gets even weirder because we have a side story
Isn't it like one of the jewels got swallowed by a
by a
fish,
fish.
and then this woman is like a fishmonger's wife, and she cuts open and finds the jewel, and she's like, "I'm gonna move to Paris,"
And
and
open a
then becomes
perfumery.
it's just this weird, like, there's obviously some kind of metaphor, deeper meaning, but, like, I was so whiplashed at this point that
Yeah.
I'm like, "Good for this woman."
It was a little try hard, like, "Oh, you're gonna throw these little, like, eons into the future, completely unrelated stories." Like, that
Yeah.
there's a book for that, but I think this book is trying to be too many things.
Yeah. It's trying to be a little bit deeper, I think, than maybe it is. And it's
Mhm.
interesting too, because I will say the 3rd book in the Shadow and Bone series kind of got a little bit like this, where
Mm.
it's not, like, sermony, but, like, trying for a lot of different things, but at the end of the day, this is still, like, fantasy romance. Yeah,
Stay in your lane.
and yeah, yeah, Leigh Bardugo, you're too clever. I'm not looking for that.
I don't wanna be smart today. Give me my romance.
No, honestly. I don't wanna be smart today, give me my romance.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the aunt is murdered,
That's it.
and
That's the story.
basically yeah, yep, Lucia wakes up and she's in a jail cell next to the Holy Child, and they're in this prison that they kept making, like, allusions to. I'm assuming this is some kind of, like, historical monument or, like, historical prison where they kept people in the Inquisition before they got burned at the stake or whatever.
Mhm.
But basically, you just stay there forever until your trial comes up and you're obviously found guilty of witchcraft because, the Inquisition.
Mhm.
And we get these kind of, like, brutal scenes of Lucia being tortured.
Yeah, so
The
we also
waterboarding, like
we they make a reference, Leigh Bardugo makes a reference that the Inquisition can't, like, inflict, like, physical markers or something along those lines, like, they can't be beaten or broken or anything like that, and
Mhm.
when she wakes up in this prison, the Holy Child's like, "So, welcome. I've been here for a while. You're gonna get tortured. It will suck. By the way, I'm not a child. I'm 38 years old, and my father is not my
Yeah.
father. He's my brother."
She pulled this whole fucking orphan card. Did you ever see that movie?
What? Mm-mm.
The
What?
Orphan? It's like a oh my god, ugh. I saw it way too young, but it's basically this Ukrainian Russian child gets adopted by a family because they think that she's, like, 13, but she's actually, like, a fully grown woman, and she tries to sleep with the dad, and then the whole
That's
house
based on,
burns
like, a true
down.
story, isn't it?
What?
Yeah,
What?
like, maybe
Oh,
slightly
no.
inspired by a story.
Oh my god, I don't like
Yeah.
that because I didn't like this either.
I think it was a
No.
okay, sidebar, there is another podcast called Red Handed, I think, have you heard of it?
Mm,
They do
uh-uh.
cold case, true crime stuff. They're 2 hilarious British ladies who
Oh.
yeah, they're I think it's probably one of the top podcasts in the world, if yeah. Anyway, I think they did a story about how this American family adopted, like, a Ukrainian child or teenager, and they because of some maybe, like, learning developmental issues, they thought she was way older than she was, and there was a huge court case about it.
Oh, geez. Because
It
that was basically the plot of the Scary Movie, except she knew that she was older, and she's done this a couple of times in order to, like, be with the dad figure, and ugh, I don't like little kid adult body
no, mm-mm,
That's like a huge not good line for me. So when she's like, "I'm 38," I'm like, "Oh, I don't like this at
no,
all."
and
Clever, but no.
it kind of puts all the pieces together for the Holy Child and how she's acted the entire book, but
Yeah.
shortly thereafter, Lucia is taken away and tortured, and it is a very graphic description of waterboarding.
But basically, they're kind of, like, asking her questions about her magic or whatever, and obviously, because she's being waterboarded, she confesses to
Literally
everything, but
everything and anything on the planet.
yeah, yep, but they're, like, still not really convinced about it, and so they, like, waterboard her some more. Like, it's it's kind of brutal. Lucia is not gonna go down not swinging, and so her and the Holy Child make this plan to break out of prison, basically.
And it almost worked. They almost
Yeah.
escaped. because the
Yep.
Holy Child is getting help from outside from her family. And then Lucia also starts getting like clean clothes and food. And it's Donna Valentina who feels guilty that her person that she put through this whole competition because she spotted a loaf of burnt bread is now going to die because of the
Mhm.
Inquisition. So she guilt guilt gifts her stuff.
And I also love the fact that, like, Donna Valentina is having some kind of, like, lesbian come to Jesus moment because she's living with a playwright
Oh,
character
that's
who's
right. I
been
forgot about that.
yeah. Yeah, who's been, like, kind of on the outside of this whole story, and they're, like, living together now, and Donna Valentina is like, "This is the first time that I've been, like, alive feeling, and I'm starting to think about the decisions I made and maybe feeling a little bit of guilt now that I'm so happy, and I want other people to maybe not totally die immediately." But it's like she's just living out
Yeah,
her lesbian
having a
life.
grand old time.
I
Throwing
love
some
it.
money at Lucia, living with a woman. It's
Basically.
great. So,
Yeah, I
yeah,
love it.
the Holy Child and Lucia form this plan to escape prison, and it works. They get through the guards until they're walking through like the guard final gate, and Lucia takes a guard's hand. This was the most improbable shit I have read in a while. The guard's like immediately like, "Oh, your hands are calloused. You're not a noblewoman." Guard, seize them. What the fuck?
Yep, yep. That's literally what happened.
In a 30-second handshake, Lucia's identity is revealed to be a prisoner. No. I'm sorry, but no, that's not I I couldn't get
Yep.
behind that.
Yeah, except the Holy Child somehow makes it away, like, there's some magic fighting scene, etcetera, etcetera. But Lucia is dragged back to a jail cell and is told that she's still awaiting trial and it's going to happen in a couple of days and she's going to be burned at the stake. And then we get this very aggressive perspective switch to St. Angel and he's like not buried alive, but like almost
He's like
in
in a
some kind of like
pantry
cellar.
underground. Yeah.
Yeah. My poor man's.
He's kinda going through his own torture scene, and he's finally pulled out after weeks, and Victor makes a deal with him to be like, "Alright, you convince Lucia to switch places with you. We will save her, and you can go off and be free." That's their grand plan. And so they show up to Lucia's tribunal where she's getting charged with witchcraft and all sorts of nasty shit. And there is Saint Angel and Victor, and like there's this weird eye contact communication thing that happens between Saint Angel and Lucia where she looks at him, he looks at her, and like, no. And they make a plan like immediately.
Yeah, because they basically, make, like, a suicide pact, I feel like,
Yeah.
because Saint David was like, "I'm done with life, and I might as well die with you than die by myself." And so it's kind of like a final middle finger to Victor, the boy toy of, like, "You can't control me anymore, I'm going to control my own fate, I'm not scared of death." And so Inquisition's like, "Okay, everybody's getting burned at the stake."
Lucia somehow convinces them that the Saint Angel is Victor's power source, something like that.
Yeah. There's
It's
some
weird.
kind of, like, witchy, magic-y thing in the, like, religious figures, presiding over this tribunal or, like, "Okay, cool, I don't really understand any of this that's going on, but, like, it all stinks of witchcraft and you're all guilty." Except
Mhm.
Victor, he can just walk away fine.
Weird.
Yeah.
Then they're thrown back in prison, Saint Angel and Lucia together until it's time to burn them alive. And then fast forward and they're on a pyre, like they're paraded through town and it's
Yep,
them and like a pirate and they're just gonna get burned alive.
yep. This whole
This
last
ending is
part feels
weird.
Yeah, because 'cause they're, like, on the pyre waiting to be burned, and then at the very last second, like, Lucia breaks this, like, magic amulet thing that someone had on, and they get spirited away to a different place, and then we get this, like, prologue where they basically are living happy ever after, and he disintegrates every night but comes back in the morning,
Because
and the
she
pirate was
heals
just
all
there
things.
too.
Yeah, the pirate escapes and lives on to do piratey things, and everything's great for
Yep.
him. But Lucia and Saint Angel spend centuries together.
I
What?
Girl, I don't know. I thought that I imagined this whole ending, and then I'm reading again through our notes, and I'm like, "No, I didn't. That literally happened, and I still don't like understand it."
They escape. He dies every night. She brings him back to life over and over and over again for the end of eternity, and that's the familiar.
Yeah.
So is Lucia the
It is.
familiar for Angel?
Oh.
Katie, are you
I
okay?
No, I'm not. I immediately got kinda sweaty, and I'm like, "Is this like a a test on the SAT or something?" Wow, I full circle moment there. Crazy.
I I don't know.
Um,
I don't know what to think about this book after talking about it for a few hours now.
I don't either.
I feel more conflicted.
Yeah, because like, while you're reading it, you're kind of okay with all the craziness, and you're feeling a little kind of like whiplash, but you're like, "This is interesting, like, I'm intrigued by what's going on." Talking back, it's like, "What the fuck happened in this book?"
There are so many characters, there's so many perspectives, there's so much action. I think you have a note here that says Daughter of the Forest did it better, and I think that's very true because there's a lot of characters, there's a lot of action, like, there's, what, 500 something pages, but
Mhm.
maybe that's an argument to make the familiar longer?
I could see that because it kinda reads the same way that a lot of plays do, where you get like, the plays rely on having, like, actors in
Mhm,
emotion, and people convey ideas not through words, but through, like, body language and, like, the set and stuff, but I feel like this was trying to do that, but you don't have that visual aspect, so it's, like, missing a little bit of the, in
mhm.
between synapses of everything, and you just get this, like, crazy plot, and you're just expected to go along and understand what's going on, and you're like, "I don't understand what's going on."
Do you think that there are more and more books that are written in a manner that it's meant for it to have a visual accompaniment? Like, a lot of the
Ooh.
books are like, "Oh, I hope this gets turned into a TV show or a Netflix movie."
I wonder now that you mention that, because when you read this book, it does, read like an HBO TV show or something, and it's interesting because Leigh Bardugo was like a writer for the Shadow and Bone Netflix, like,
Mhm.
series or whatever, like, she was brought in to help write the script, and I almost wonder if she was like, "Well, I enjoyed that experience, let me give it another shot with something a little bit more, like, zesty feeling." Because this
Hmm.
did you ever watch The Borgias?
Oh, are we
Yeah.
having the same brain moment? I was just about
Yep.
to say that whole vibe of that show is just like this.
Yep. Yeah, it's like The Borgias plus magic,
Mhm.
um, plus a competition.
Yeah.
That's basically, yeah. Because this it feels like a TV show a little bit, and I think it would be better as a TV show than the book.
Mhm.
Like, I'd probably watch the shit out of the show, but I don't think I'm ever gonna pick this book up again.
And I think maybe that's the difference because the Shadow and Bone show felt like a caricature of the book because
Yeah,
you didn't
it
need a
really did.
visual.
Mm-mm. But this is the complete opposite.
This
Like, you need
this is
a
a
little bit
caricature of a
of
TV show.
assistance.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly. Because I will say I think this got marketed the wrong way, because it came up on a lot of, like, TikTok lists of, like, books that people are excited about, and Leigh Bardugo obviously had such success with the Shadow and Bone series, and it kind of always seemed like this was gonna be, like, a slightly spookier, maybe a little bit more adulty version of Shadow and Bone, and, like, it kind of is, but, like, this is, like, historical fiction almost with
Mhm.
a light magic, but is it magic or is it God kind of
It's
underline.
I think the setting is intriguing and it's fine. I think part of the problem is because of the diverse cast of characters and all of the narrative switching, you can't feel connected to any one of them. Like Lucia is the main narrator, but we get so much of Valentina and so much of the aunt and Saint Angel. It's just too much, and you are kind of jerked around throughout the book.
Mhm. 'Cause, now that I'm thinking about the perspective switching, it kind of reminds me a little bit of George R. R. Martin's,
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
Song of Fire and Ice or whatever, but, I mean, look at how big those fucking books are.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, kind of the only way to make a really convincing, like, character arc and a convincing plot and to really understand the political mechanisms, like, at play is, 325 pages or whatever this was not enough for all that Leigh Bardugo was trying to shove in there.
Maybe this is fine because there are people who veer towards like they want world building, they want setting, and then there are people who want character development. And then there's like the happy
Mhm.
middle ground. And I feel like this one veers more towards setting.
Yeah, absolutely. 'Cause, when you look at the character arcs, like, I don't really see a difference between where Lucia is at the beginning and where she is at the end.
Mm-mm.
I feel like she's still like, she got what she wanted, but she didn't really have to sacrifice or learn anything to get there.
I think Valentina had the most character growth.
Yeah, and she's like a side character.
Yeah, we didn't get to spend nearly as much time with her. She would have been way
Yeah.
more sympathetic if sh can you imagine if she was the main narrator and our protagonist isn't an
Ooh.
all-powered, like, magical miracle worker? We get to see the lowly wife's perspective of the actual powerful figure.
I fuck with that, man. Oh my god. 'Cause, I think I've talked about it before, but my partner's reading Fourth Wing, and his biggest complaint is like, "Oh, this, like, sick weakly girl got the strongest dragon, and she's paired with, like, 2 dragons or something, and, like, everything works out, and, like, she's not gonna die." And I was like, "I do have beef that all these books, like, you get the overpowered heroine, and it happened in Sarah Maas's The House of Whatever and Whatever, her 3rd series that is
Mhm.
a hot mess. She originally started out with no powers, and then all of a sudden, by the end, she was, like, the most powerful fae, half fae human that had ever existed. It's like, just let people be not overpowered.
I want a fantasy romance book where the heroine is not a magical, all-powerful being. She is the side character, but the whole book is from her perspective, and she's like, "What the fuck is
Yeah,
wrong with these all-power like, their magic is fucked." Yeah.
nothing makes sense. Or even just a character that, like, makes her way in the world from her own just, like, intellect.
Mhm.
And, has to compensate in that way for, a world that's filled with people that are overpowered, and she has to find a way to be smarter than them, and sometimes it doesn't work because she thinks that everybody else isn't as smart as she is, like, I don't know, I'm tired of these fucking overpowered, overstrong magic saves everything if you don't think about the plot at all.
Yeah, let's put a real girl in one of these books, like, "Listen, I can barely use a screwdriver, okay? Like, I am I ain't
You
saving
really, like,
shit."
walk up the stairs?
Right?
Yeah, I need a little bit of realism. Because I mean, Donna Valentina really was the only one that got a full character arc. Because she starts off
Mhm.
as very immature, kind of unsure of herself, and then she meets someone that, compliments her and lets her be comfortable in herself, and she's like, "Oh, I was kind of a horrible person. Let me, do something to fix that a little bit." And she still feels this guilt because she's like, "I'm really not doing enough, but maybe I'll go to the tribunal and I'll like watch her as the final, sacrifice and like sorry forgiveness thing." And it's like, how did she get a full story arc, but nobody else did?
I don't know. What are some similar books that do this but better? Because this is a very unique book.
I feel like the Shadow and Bone series has very similar themes, but does it a little bit more, you know, not competently, but coherently, maybe. But it's also, again, spread over 3 books. It's not just one.
Mercedes have you read anything by Mercedes?
I don't think so. What has she written?
A lot.
Oh.
Like, she was really popular 80s, 90s, so she's a little bit of an older
Hmm.
author, but she does a lot of, like, standalone type stuff. Does this look familiar at all?
Oh, it does not.
So, she's known for kind of doing thick fairy tale retellings.
Oh.
She also has her what is this series called? I don't know. I feel like this is just very traditional fantasy.
Oh
book.
my gosh, Jordan is showing me the most quintessential, like, cover art. You see it at Half Price Books, and you're
Yeah.
like, "What is this?"
I think this was published probably in '87. Let me check here. This is like the Valdemar nope, 1991. Here we go.
Oh.
Um, yeah. But I feel like her writing style is kinda similar to Leigh Bardugo's writing style in The Familiar because it is a little bit more distant. It's a little bit more setting focused and less, like, dive into the character's mindset. So yeah.
Mm.
So Shadow and Bone, Daughter of the Forest, and maybe stuff by Mercedes Lackey is kinda what I'm thinking.
Yeah, yeah, and I would say if you want something a little bit richer in the political side and a little bit longer, like, obviously, George R. R. Martin,
Mhm.
'cause this kind of flirted the line between historical fiction and fantasy, and I feel like that he does that well too.
What about Naomi Novik? I feel like she does this better.
Yeah. I if you enjoyed what was happening, but you didn't like how it was done, Naomi Novik's versions would probably be a lot more
Mhm.
enjoyable for you.
Yeah, I'm thinking Spinning
'Cause she
Silver
has
specifically.
I I was about to say that Spinning Silver, I think, is, like, eh, the a little bit more easy to read version of this, but
Mhm.
still good.
Yeah.
That's true, yeah.
Alright.
But yeah, The Borgias, if you wanna watch a TV
Yeah.
show, basically.
Just find any TV show or The Tudors.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Uh-huh. It also kinda gives me the vibes of what's the one that had Natalie Portman
Oh,
in
the
the
movie with, Scarlett Johansson. Uh,
Yeah!
it was,
The other
The Other
Boleyn
Boleyn
Girl?
Girl.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The vibes are very similar between these.
I never read
We're
that
probably
book.
flirting all It was a book?
Philippa Gregory?
Really?
Mhm.
Whoa.
I
Okay,
haven't
because
read
I was
it.
about to
I don't think
rewatch
I'm
that
ever gonna
movie
read
too.
it, but
Yeah, it's probably super fucking depressing because the
Mhm.
movie's depressing,
Yeah.
but
So there's options for you if
Interesting.
The Familiar
Yeah.
was, like, almost your cup of tea, but, like, needed a couple drops of sugar in it.
Yeah, that's a pretty good description of this because I didn't hate it, I didn't have a not good time. Would I do it again? No, but it was fibrous, honestly.
Full
Too much.
circle.
There's too much chewing involved.
Yeah, I agree. Well,
Yeah.
from our shelf to yours.
We'll see you on the next page. Hi, readers. If you'd like to help us pick our next book, send us a message on Instagram.
Or if you'd like to just listen, we post new episodes every Monday and Wednesday on Spotify, Apple, and Amazon. Thanks for listening.
Bussin'.